Good morning, Trojans. I'm CJ Haddad.
And I'm Dom Calloway, and this is
The End Zone. Today we're going to get started with talking about a little high school football. What do you got for us, Dom?
Well, our number one topic is the Trenton Trojans. This year, they had a nice 10-2 record, making it to regionals, first time since 1998. So I think that's a really productive season. And personally, I think a lot went into this football team, like outside of the athletic part of it. You know, there's a lot of heart in this team, family, desire. You could see that desire to win in those late third quarter, fourth quarter comebacks. It was pretty nice to experience for me, watch for some fans, you know.
Definitely was fun to watch.
Absolutely. And then there's some heart there, you know. You can tell some guys wanted it this year compared to other years, you know. Like, they put that work in, you know.
Off-season was really a grind this year.
Oh, yeah. And then with that family part, you could see guys hugging each other on the sideline, on the field. You know, you could definitely tell guys had an emotional connection together, and I think that's one big part. And I think some players and coach could account for that one as well. We had some interviews. We'd like to start off with Coach Glahn, actually. Coach Glahn, how do you think this off-season workouts and long days during the summer shape the players for the season?
Well, number one, that's where they invested their time. That's where they put in the work, and then it made us stronger. I mean, from where we were the year before to where we were this year with the 900-pound club guys and 1,100-pound club guys, that makes the difference. That's what makes a champion.
I agree, you know, them getting stronger, you know, all that time in the weight room does really take effect on the team. You know, it's easy to build off them, build off the strength they're getting. We have the star quarterback actually as well, Ty Norgren. I'd like to ask him a question. Ty, what do you think was the biggest drive this season to cause the run that the football team had?
I'm going to have to say probably the family that we built. I mean, we all had the same goal in mind, to do something that's never been done here before. So everybody coming together and working for that goal off season and during season, I mean, that's what it's all about.
Okay, yeah, I agree also. You know, it's a really long process, and I think guys coming together, really taking a step forward is a good way to go about this, you know.
Yep.
And we also have senior fullback Peyton Culpepper, who's also a wrestler. You can check him out this season. Peyton, do you think the emotional connection between the players was bigger this year than years prior?
I definitely think that the emotional connection was a lot bigger with, you know, just the coaches coming together with the players and letting the players lead instead of the coaches, and just being a great community around. It definitely helped a lot.
I agree. You know, touching back on what I said about that family part, guys, like being more emotional on the field, sideline, all that, I think that really does have a big effect on that, you know. There was a lot of big points this season for the football team, beating Chelsea week 1. Last year, losing by over 40 points. Yeah. You know, it wasn't a fun experience to start off the season. They became state champs, and Trenton beating them this year was definitely like a
Definitely set the tone.
Oh yeah, stamp in the middle of the field actually.
Hey, yeah.
The Carlson loss week 4 or 5.
Yeah, around there.
That was really bad. Yeah, week 4. You know, both teams 3-1 or 3-0 coming in the season or into this game. Sorry. Yeah. Everyone thought it was going to be a big game. Trenton faced some injuries, unfortunately. You know, faced a tough loss, but I think it was nice to be humbled because they definitely had a big head, you know.
Yeah, a little bit of adversity is what the team needed to keep going forward and really make their season successful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, with adversity, there's always got to be something, you know, to celebrate again. Homecoming, nice win over Woodhaven. Definitely. We had Austin Toth record 3 touchdowns that game, 3 interceptions as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe that was a phenomenal performance by the Trenton Trojans. And,
yeah, it's definitely nice when we have a rivalry win against Woodhaven, you know, big rivals of the city. So
especially for a homecoming game.
Yeah, it was crazy, man.
Epic,
really set the tone for the weekend.
And then, you know, making it to regionals, tough loss, you know, great season to look back on, but, you know, there's nothing short of great run, you know, I can't say anything else.
You know, first district in a while versus regional, first time making the regional finals in a really long time. It was definitely fun to watch. Got to see the team come more together and improve throughout the season and really peak at the last game of the season.
Oh, yeah, and let's hope the best for the seniors and then see what the underclassmen can do next year. And that's all we have for Trenton football.
Yeah, that's all we have for high school football. Next, we're going to get into high school basketball. So for the basketball team, they just came off a 64-46 loss against Riverview on Tuesday. It was a close game up until the fourth quarter. You know, Jake Cressy really started in that game. He had 15 points. He was supported by Ian Carrico with 8 points, 5 rebounds, and defensive rebounding help from Ashton Rooney, who's a sophomore. How do you feel about how the team performed?
Obviously, you know, you can't let those late game comebacks happen or lead extensions happen. But I think if the young guys can kind of capitalize off the opportunity they have, it would be a great season with the senior role models like leading them. Obviously, with Ian Carrico, you know, I think the season could turn around with a little bit of practice, you know, a little bit of more experience for these younger guys.
Yeah, they say basketball's a game of runs. Once Riverview hit that run, it was hard for the boys to come back, and you know it's difficult. And then last night, actually Thursday night, Trojans played Gabriel Richard. Great basketball team. You know, got a lot of offensive firepower. How do you think GR performed?
I think GR performed really well. You know, a lot of chirping from the student section, the
Always gonna be
Trojan
that.
pit. So to be able to overcome that and perform at the level they did, it's a great thing for them. Unfortunately, another Trojans loss, but it was a great run. You know, once again, GR got some momentum, and it was just hard to come back from that. But moving on, I think both teams will have a little bit of success in this league.
Yeah, definitely. The Trojans really showed heart in that game. You know, it's a great team. It's a hard matchup for the Trojans, just being a team that's more on the rise than a team that's already there like GR is. But I feel like throughout the season, the Trojans will be able to step it up and win some tough games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So their next matchup is going to be next Thursday against Southgate. Very winnable game, I feel like, for the Trojans. How do you think they're going to do?
I believe the Trojans, you know, being 0-2, they have a little chip on their shoulder they got to kind of wipe off. I think if they get this win over Southgate, then it would be a good little momentum push, not only for a game, but like for the season. You know, that could be a nice little kickstart to, oh wait, we can actually do this. We can win the game. We can finish games. You know.
Exactly.
So hopefully they can come out, perform to the level they should be, and then get that little momentum push.
Yeah, and we have two big injuries coming back soon. We got Alex Pollock, big 6'5" center, coming back. And then you got Ethan Fritz, who's sophomore. He has a lot of firepower on the offensive end, shooting, taking the ball to the basket. So yeah, that'll definitely provide a big impact on both sides of the floor.
Oh yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to Alex Pollock coming back. You know, it's been a minute since he's touched the court, so I'm excited to see what he can do.
A lot of
you know.
injuries he's had to push through. We'll see what he can do, though. But that's all we have for basketball today. Next, we're going to get into the tennis team from the fall. So the tennis team, you know, they made the state finals. What do you have to say?
I think it was a great run for them. You know,
Yeah.
the singles opponent, Matt Vinca, you know, a very close friend of mine. I think he performed well. Obviously, he didn't get to do what he wanted to do this season, being his senior season. But I think overall it was pretty well. And then, like, Noah Miklos and Sal Verduz, they were
Yeah.
a duo. I don't know what's
Yeah.
called in tennis, but they were a duo, you know, and I think they performed really well. Making it to states is always a good accomplishment. And,
Definitely.
can't take anything away from them for that.
Yeah, Matt Vink and Sal Reduce, both close friends of both of ours.
Yes, sir.
They're both able to make states. It's great for them. You know, Matt Vinca, he's our one singles tennis player this year, 4-year varsity tennis player. He was able to make states. He had a great run throughout the Downriver League, only losing a couple of matches. So that's good for him, great way to end his career. And then you got Sal Reduce and Noah Miklos. I think they were playing 2 doubles this year. They ended up having a good season. Sal's a senior, obviously. Noah's a junior. So, yeah, it ended up being a good run, made it to the state finals. I'm very proud of the boys.
Yes, sir.
So, and speaking of Noah Miklos, he's our goalie for hockey, so I think it's the perfect time to roll into hockey.
Oh, definitely.
So hockey team, 5-1 start this season. You know, had a couple key wins this year against De La Salle 2-1 and Cranbrook 4-3. How do you feel the Trojans are doing so far?
I think the Trojans are doing very well. You know, I wouldn't say not doing to the best, but you know, having that one loss kind of hurts.
Yeah.
But thinking back to last year, they had a rough start.
Exactly.
Finished off in the state championship. So I think these guys are kind of using that momentum, going back to momentum, using that season, kind of pushing this. So hopefully they can make that same run.
Yeah, it always seems like the Trojans hockey team turns it up for the playoffs. They never disappoint us. great team. This year, though, senior captain Mike Knighting's leading the team with 11 points, followed by Will Barrett Jr. with 10 points. How do you think their impact's improving the team?
Oh, I think the impact is definitely a big one. Obviously, Micah and Barrett, or Will Barrett, both being close friends of ours as well.
As well, yeah.
Micah being the senior, I think he has a little more experience with these types of situations. I think he'll be able to continue this little push. Will Barrett, he's a junior.
Yeah.
He had experience from that state championship team, but he's just, he's an overall stud. So
Exactly.
hopefully he can keep the performance up, keep that going on.
Exactly. Micah Knighting with 3 years of varsity experience, his leadership I can really see is coming through on the ice, on and off the ice both. This team's very together this year. Then you got Will Barrett, just an all-around great hockey player. Last year he switched positions from D to a forward, and he's really taken that in stride. So yeah, with 1 year varsity experience before this, he's really taking the position change in stride and thriving in it.
Oh, yeah.
So they have a big test this Saturday. They play Livonia Stevenson at 5:30 in Livonia. Great team, they're coming off a undefeated record right now. How do you think the Trojans are going to do?
It's definitely going to be a tough game for the Trojans, but it'll also be a good one, a little
Yeah,
competition.
exactly.
I think they'll prevail, if they get in the training, which I know Coach Clements is definitely training them hard.
Definitely.
I think they fall back onto your practice, then, I think it'll be a great game, taking that undefeated record away from them, having them have a loss, it'll be a great push start.
Yeah, the Trojans, they tend to start hot. I think they'll start hot again on Saturday, and I think they'll be able to pull out a victory. Speaking of, we talked about Noah Miklos, about tennis. Him and sophomore Evan Sivy have actually been taking turns in that this year, both providing great performances, both save percentages way up high. How do you think that, alternation is going to improve the team?
I think it's great, actually. If a guy's injured, you always have a guy to rotate.
Definitely.
And if they're both performing within the same skill range, then it's always nice to give one a blow,
Yeah.
go strategize with the coach in the box or something. So
Exactly.
I think it's a good rotation to keep if they want to continue to win, and it's a great strategy by the coaches.
Yeah, definitely. It's not very often you get 2 goalies of that level on your team, And I think that we're really using it to our advantage, playing them both.
Oh, yeah. And then, hopefully it'll just kickstart everything, stopping those goals, getting goals.
Exactly.
Great season.
Yep, and that's all we have for our high school sports today. Next, we're going to get into some college football for you guys.
Getting into college sports, we like to start off with the 13-0 Michigan Wolverines. I'm pretty sure it's the first time in franchise history that it's happened. I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but as a guy who kind of grew up around the Ann Arbor area, it's great to see. I know most of you guys in this area like Michigan State, but it's
Yeah.
great to see on my end, Jim Harbaugh coming in, turning this franchise around. A lot of doubts early on in his coaching career here at U of M.
Yeah.
But this 13-0 run is definitely something to look forward to. How do you feel about that as a State fan?
As a State fan, it's hard to see them coming out and beating Michigan State by a considerable amount, but, it's another school from the same state as me, made college football playoffs, and it's great to see.
Oh, yeah, it's Russian, especially running that Big Ten. It's always good to see have that little hanging over your head a little bit. Speaking of 13-0, that puts U of M at number 2 in the college football rankings. I personally do not respect that. I think they should be over Georgia, a tougher competition, I'd say. Tougher win
Yeah.
over Ohio State with more points put up.
Yeah,
So,
it's definitely hard to know where. I mean, they have a lot of people on the committee who's deciding it. I trust them, but at the same time, there's a lot of things I don't agree with personally. Michigan, in my opinion, should be one as well, but Georgia's team is definitely very good, and they definitely put up a fight.
I agree, but it's not the same Georgia team. Personally, I don't pay attention to Georgia, but I do not think it's the same Georgia team. So I think it's a little biased opinion too. Michigan should be number 1, but that puts Michigan playing TCU, who's number 3, which is another questionable ranking. TCU had an upset loss to Kansas State in overtime, actually.
Yeah, in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing for a number 3 team to be doing.
Yeah, Kansas State, they're not the best team, but obviously they performed that game. And TCU with that loss, it's hard to say that they deserve the 3 spot, but I'm interested to see what they can do against Michigan.
Oh, it's definitely going to be an interesting game. We already know. I'm not going to speak it out, actually. I'm not going to put bad mojo in the air, but Victor is kind of.
I'll put it in the air. I think Michigan's going to win, for sure.
But, that kind of sets up the national championship also,
Yeah.
It's either Ohio State or Georgia versus Michigan. So it's going to make some ticket sales anyways.
Definitely. We'll see. Is there anything else we have for college football?
That's the end of college football.
Okay, so next we're going to roll into some Michigan State basketball for you guys. So next for Michigan State basketball, we're going to start out. They just had a recent victory against Penn State after 2 straight losses to both Notre Dame and Northwestern. It was a great bounce-back victory. How do you feel they did?
I think it was a great performance, being able to come back. We talked about earlier in high school basketball, getting that momentum from where the other team having momentum is kind of hard to bounce back. So being able to do that, especially coming off a 2-loss streak, it's a pretty great performance.
Yeah, so Penn State in that game, they had a couple of great runs. There's a couple of times where they went up by 10, 12 points. But Michigan State was able to weather those runs, and they were able to push through. A.J. Hoggard had a 23-point night, and he seems to be the glue to this team. When he plays well, the team tends to play well. How do you feel about Hoggard?
I think Hoggard is, playing pretty well, obviously. You always got to have that one guy on the team, whether it's football, tennis, basketball. You got to have that guy who's going to keep pushing no matter what.
Yeah.
You got to lead by example because most guys, they don't like to get yelled at into doing what they should do. They got to see somebody do it, and they build that confidence up to do what they have to do. So having a guy like AJ is kind of, it's kind of good for that run if they want to push forward into a better run later in the season.
Yeah, he's definitely a great leader, great glue guy. But I'd say Michigan State's missing their biggest leader, Malik Hall, it's really hurting their team right now, but I think once he comes back, they'll be in a great rhythm. He's a 12-point-per-game scorer, along with a great defensive player, great leader. He does all the dirty work for the team, rebounds, steals. How do you think the loss of Malik Hall is affecting them?
I think the loss of Malik is definitely taking a toll. It's always nice to have a good role player as well, especially if he can be a leader.
Yeah.
So I think him not being there definitely has an effect on their record and their performance. But once he comes back, matching him with AJ again, I think the leadership is just going to bounce them to like a straight shot up, and
Exactly.
Hopefully they can finish out the job.
Yeah, they're going to have a tough Big Ten schedule. Purdue obviously is looking very good with Zach Edey. You got a bunch of teams that are looking good, and Michigan's always a hard game for the Spartans.
Wolverines on top.
But I think the Michigan State will be able to prevail, be one of the top teams in the Big Ten, and make a run in March.
Oh yeah, hopefully, and Sweet 16 could see a lot of guys from Big Ten. So let's hope Michigan State could be one of those great series that we could watch.
Yeah, we'll see. So that's all we have for our college sports today. Next, we're going to get into our professional sports, starting off with the Detroit Lions. All right, so with the Detroit Lions, they started off rough. What do you have to say about that?
Always for the Lions coming into the season, watching Hard Knocks a while back, it was hard to really get a gauge on what they're going to do. They started off kind of slow, not a great run, 1-6, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, to start the season.
Everyone questioned if they could get it done or not. And recently, in the last 6 games, they've actually won on a 5-1 run.
Yeah.
And that's great to see, kind of turning around. And it's hopefully that momentum changes. They play the Vikings this weekend, and with the Vikings win, they clinch a playoff spot.
Yep.
But with this season, you never know if the Lions could come back or not.
Exactly.
Dan Campbell is the head coach. He's definitely made a culture effect on that team, bringing more heart, animosity, desire, like we said for the Trojans. So if he can get this team running like the Trenton Trojans did under Coach Glahn, then I definitely think the Lions are going to have a great run this year.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of see some similarities, new coaches bringing a new culture, and it's really impacting the team into improving. It's crazy how the Lions can turn around from a 1-win team at the start of the season into a 1-loss team in the last 6 games.
Oh yeah, another big thing about that is T.J. Hawkinson getting traded also to the Vikings.
Yep.
So that's gonna be a great matchup. But everyone thought he was gonna stay because he had like similarities to Dan Campbell back in his playing days.
Yeah.
And it was a great shock to Detroit, to say the least, when they saw he got traded. But they've been doing good without him, so
Exactly.
you never know.
Yeah. Trading your star players sometimes can be a blessing in disguise, I guess.
Oh yeah, and hopefully for the Lions, it's definitely that blessing.
So yeah, so that's all we have for the Lions. Next, we're gonna get into a segment that we like to call Over, Under, or Proper, where we're gonna rate players and different people in sports.
So on this new segment we like to call Over, Under, or Proper, we're gonna rate a few people, teams, and see what CJ's opinions are. And as a Michigan State guy, I know how you feel personally, but how do you think Bill Walton is rated?
So, in my opinion, Bill Walton, he's very controversial when he's on air. He says a lot of things that can be taken in ways where I don't know if he means it that way. He could not. But in my opinion, I would say he's overrated. There's a lot of people that like him, a lot of people that hate him. Kind of controversial in that aspect. But I think that he could definitely improve. He's fairly new to sports broadcasting. He played NBA, he played college basketball. But I think that, I don't know. In my opinion, he's just overrated. I'm not a big fan of watching games where he's the guy who's announcing it. So
would you say that this is a more biased opinion?
from me,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, Michigan State's won a couple games where he's announced, so I wouldn't say that plays a factor into it. But I don't know. I'm just not a big fan, even though he does tend to hate the Spartans a little bit.
I can understand that. And for our next one, we kind of touched on this a minute ago. TCU football, how do you feel they rank right now?
Yeah, so TCU football, they're third-ranked team playing Michigan in the college football playoffs. It's hard to gauge them, I feel like. They've had a great season. They haven't played much competition yet, but, that loss to Kansas State really makes me question them. If you're going to the college football playoffs coming off a loss, it's hard to see. A lot of people have them ranked highly, as you can see. They're the third seed. But in my opinion, I'm going to say overrated again.
And I agree. It kind of reminds me of that Cincinnati team in the playoffs
Yeah.
last year. It's just like a out of nowhere, how did you get here type team.
Exactly.
It's good for them, but there could be better options in this playoffs, if you ask me.
I agree with that completely.
For our next person, it kind of reminds me of Giannis Antetokounmpo with the name. I
Yeah.
cannot pronounce it, but
Victor
Victor.
Wembanyama.
Yeah, how do you feel about him?
Victor Wembanyama, some people say the best prospect since LeBron James. He's standing at 7'5". He can move great. He can handle the ball. He can shoot the ball, along with what big guys do, block shots and get rebounds.
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard to call him underrated since everybody has him as, again, the best prospect since LeBron James, who's number 2 behind Michael Jordan in the all-time rankings list. I feel like you can't call him overrated, though, either, because he hasn't done anything yet to disappoint. He's only played great so far. So I think that I'm going to say properly rated just because I think he's going to be great if he stays healthy, and that's where his ranking is right now.
Do you believe that he could be the next coming of MJ or LeBron, like those high caliber guys?
So it's hard to say. When you get big guys like that at 7'5", they tend to struggle with injury. But I've seen videos recently online where he's working hard to try to stay healthy, build strength up so that he doesn't have an ACL tear, tears meniscus, anything like that in his knees, ankles, where big guys tend to normally struggle health-wise. So yeah, I think that he has the potential to reach that. It'll be hard to reach that, obviously, because they're 2 of the best players of all time. But I definitely think it's possible.
Oh, yeah. I think with a little bit of training, weight training, obviously,
Yeah.
as well, I think he could definitely get up there as one of those guys.
Definitely.
And for our last topic, the Lions.
Yeah, so the Lions, again, it's a controversial thing. Some people think that they're going to flop again. But me personally, I think that they definitely could stay on a linear path. With a hard loss against the Bills, their only loss in the last 6 games, they're a Super Bowl contender, right? So it's hard to say that they have done anything in the last 6 games to where they won't continue to succeed. I feel like this Vikings game will really be insight into how the rest of the season will go. But for me, I'm going to say they're underrated since a lot of people say that they are going to flop in the next couple games. But I think they're going to continue to succeed.
Oh, yeah, and I hope, as a Detroit guy or like a guy from Metro Detroit, it's
Yeah.
also, great to see that the Lions are winning. I'm more of a Steelers fan myself. But,
A lot of personal connection there.
yeah, a couple personal connections there. But,
Yeah.
it's always good to see your hometown team winning. So hopefully, if it's not the Steelers, it'll be the Lions bringing it home. Even if it's not all the way, hopefully they have a great run.
Definitely.
And that's all we have for over, under, proper.
Next, we're going to roll into the Detroit Pistons, so let's see that. All right, so with the Detroit Pistons, they've had a rough start so far. They're sitting at 4th place in the Eastern Conference right now. What do you make of their rough start?
Like I said, hometown teams, I love
Yeah.
to see them win. More of a Warriors guy, like out-of-state guy. It's hard to see Pistons struggling. It's kind of a given at this point with Detroit sports, so it's not upsetting, but it is kind of disappointing to watch. Cade Cunningham not performing to the level he should be. Jaden Ivey not performing to the level he should be.
Yeah.
These guys last year were like projected to be like top guys coming in this season, but it's just not getting it done.
Yeah, if you look at it right now, Cade Cunningham, he was projected to be a 30-point-per-game scorer, one of the best players in the league by this point, but right now he's averaging 26 and 6. Kind of struggling right now, especially with shooting percentage. He's not shooting great. He's taking a lot of shots right now. And like you said, Jaden Ivey, again, projected to be one of the best players in the league, but he's averaging 15, 4, and 4. I think one of our bright spots is Isaiah Stewart, a young guy, young center. He's averaging 12 points and 9 rebounds, way above what anybody thought he'd do. So I think with time we could improve, but it's hard to say really with the Detroit Pistons. You never know. We tend to struggle with young talent and bringing them up. We tend to trade them away really early.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens. Again, we talked about Victor Wembanyama. How do you feel about the modern-day tanking style to get these great players first overall pick?
See, me, I'm more of an old school guy. I'm not gonna lose on purpose. I have too much pride to lose.
Yeah.
So to purposely lose, to have another guy come take my job, like looking at it as a player standpoint, it's kind of not something I'd want to do. Mm-hmm. And from a business standpoint, I understand that he's gonna be one of the next big guys potentially. But I don't think tanking is the right thing to do. We talk about how they have all these young guys. Why would you want them to come up learning how to lose? Because that's just going to build terrible habits, and it's not going to be good for the long run, especially if they want to trade those guys away. What's the point of doing that? I get you can get draft picks, but I think we should develop these guys that we have now. You never know what could happen. It could make a great playoff run with more time.
Yeah, these young guys, they need that development, I agree. But it's hard to turn down that almost GOAT status prospect, greatest of all time. But I agree with you. These players play the sport for a living. They want to win. They love the game. So it's hard to tell them to go out and lose, right?
Yeah.
Even though there is a lot of upside. And I agree. So it's the NBA, right? Everybody's going to be good. You can get a good draft pick whether you're sitting at 5th or 1st. They're going to be good players, probably. Of course, mixing a couple busts in there, obviously. But, I think we should just develop these young players. We're struggling right now. I don't think we'll make the playoffs either way. Mm-hmm. So we'll be able to have a lottery pick, and I think we should just scout, make sure we draft good, and see what comes from it.
I agree. And then, like I said, or what I was thinking earlier is, like, asking the question about could Victor be the next LeBron James, MJ? This guy could be the biggest bust of all time.
Exactly. We don't know yet.
So that also factors into my opinion on tanking. You could tank for the guy who's like the best football guy. Some guys are the best college guys. Some guys in every sport are just college guys.
Exactly.
You can't put them at a pro level and expect them to perform. Victor, it could be different. It probably will be different, but
Exactly.
you never know. It
There's
could be an
always that
injury
chance.
or just like the skill level doesn't match up. So I don't think going for a guy who could potentially be a bust is a great idea.
Yeah, it's all, you got to take the upside. There's a lot of different ways you can view it. So yeah, that's all we have for our broadcast today. Any closing remarks?
Not really. Just tune into Trenton Trojan Sports, no matter what it is, and
Definitely.
That's it.
No matter what the sport is, we need your guys' support. So make sure you guys show out. That's all we have for the End Zone today. We'll see you guys next time.